This video is brought to you by my courses on Teachable. And I just published a brand new course on mastering SwiftUI MapKit. Now this course is going to cover everything you need to know about using the MapKit APIs in SwiftUI applications. And one of the great things that I've added to all of my courses are some additional benefits like quarterly live Q&A sessions. So this is where you can interact with me and other members, other students, and ask questions. Private community access Slack, so you'll get access to the Slack channel where you can ask questions. And lifetime early access and discounts on all future courses. Now let's go ahead and take a look at all the different things that we are going to cover in this course. After getting started with the SwiftUI maps, you're going to learn about user location. You're going to learn about finding user's location and setting up the interface. And then you're going to create a near me application so you can search for all the things that are close to you. Like maybe you're interested in eating a burger or a taco. Well, you will know how to create the app that can do that. And then you're going to learn about how to consume JSON API by creating a restroom finder application, the closest restroom near you. All right, so sometimes that can be very, very handy. So you're going to be creating a brand new project where you will use a public API to consume all the information and then put all the information, display all the information in the maps. And you can even navigate to those places. You're also going to learn about region monitoring and some other topics. So this is the complete course if you're interested in finding out how to use MapKit with SwiftUI. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the starter project. In the starter project, you can see that I'm including the location manager, which is going to be able to find your current location. It's going to also request for in-use authorization. All of these things we have covered before. Once it finds the location, it actually puts it in the region or it creates a region using that location. The location manager is unchanged, it's the same exact code. Let's check out the coordinate regions. The MK coordinate region is simply conforming to equatable, just like before. There are a couple of different new things that I'm adding, which is an extension on CL monitor circular geographic condition. And these two static functions, or static properties, are going to return you a geographic area centered around Cupertino Village and also Apple Campus, radius of 50 meters both, that we want to monitor. So these are the two different monitors that we are returning. The Cupertino Village and the Apple Village over here are simply CL location coordinate 2D, which we are getting it from the extension CL location coordinate 2D with all the location data you can see is hard-coded. If I go back to my content view, you can see that in the content view, just for reference, I have commented out the latitude and longitude for Apple Campus, Cupertino Village, which is very near Apple Campus, Menlo Park, and so on. I also have the artwork over here, which is a dictionary for Apple Campus identifier. The artwork is Apple Park. For Cupertino Village identifier, which we'll be using later on, the actual artwork is Cupertino Village, and the artworks are added in the assets folder, as you can see over here. Right now, when you run the app, it's not really going to do much. The first thing we need to do is it would be a good idea to create regions, like a circular region, a circular shape, using the map circle that can tell us where the regions are. So it will be much better, like if you're looking at something over here, and if we see a region like this, then we know, oh, this is the region. When we enter this particular region, then we want it to be monitored. Okay, so it would be a nice or good idea to add that particular visual overlay on our map that is indicating the actual region that we're trying to monitor. So in the next lecture, I'll be looking at that how we can create those regions easily using Map Circle. One of the things that you may note over here is that in Xcode previews, sometime it asks for your location and sometime it doesn't. As you can see right now, it's not really zooming in to my location. Let me see if I can figure out what's going on. Let's see over here. You can see that it just doesn't really ask for the permission. So sometime it works, sometime it doesn't. Anyway, let's go ahead and run the application in an actual simulator. And over here in the simulator, you can actually see that it's asking for the permission to use the location services. I'm going to say allow once, and then it kind of zooms in to the Apple Maps area because that's the area that we have configured. Now, one of the things that you will note is that the Cupertino village is kind of nearby. So what we want to do is we want to track the region, or we want to create a region for Cupertino village as well as the Apple campus. So it would be a good idea, it would be nice if we can create some sort of an overlay to show the region that is being tracked. So let's go ahead and do that. The easiest way that you can do that is by using Map Circle. So I can simply go ahead and say Map Circle. And in the Map Circle, I can pass in the CL location coordinate 2D and also the radius. So the CL location coordinate 2D I have already built. I'm just going to go ahead and pass in Cupertino village. And for the radius, the distance, just going to say 50. Now you can see that it's not really going to appear in our Xcode previews because sometimes the previews work or not. Now you can see it's working as I said that. Now it's working. Okay, so that looks pretty good. You can see that the radius is appearing for 50 meters. The color we can definitely change. So let's go ahead and change it to indigo.opacity. We're also going to change the opacity to, let's say, 0.4. Okay, much nicer. We can at least see that which region we are talking about. Okay, let's go ahead and zoom out a little bit. Let's see if we can zoom out. Okay, we can, good. And it would be nice if we can do kind of like the same thing for the Apple campus. 50 meters would be enough. So we can use the same approach. This time we are going to use the CL location coordinate 2D, which are for Apple campus. So there we go. It's very hard to see because Apple campus already is also a circle. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm using a different color. You can see right there. We can see right here. That's the pink color. So that is a 50 meters. Okay. And the main reason that I'm adding is just for our visual sake or visual sanity. So we can at least see that these are the two regions we are going to be tracking. Right now, nothing is being tracked because we're not really monitoring anything. We just created that circle, the region. So we still need to track that what we are, or monitor these regions. So let's go to the next lecture and see that how we can start monitoring. Now let's go ahead and see that how we can start monitoring certain regions that we created. So we have already created these circular geographic conditions. And circular geographic condition simply means that this is a condition that we are going to be monitoring, which is centered at Cupertino Village, radius of 50 meters, and another one is Apple Campus and radius of 50 meters. But how do we start monitoring these things? So let's go back to the location manager. And inside the location manager, we can create a separate function which can be start region monitoring. You can name this function anything you want. I'm just going to name it start region monitoring. And inside this function, we are going to construct region monitoring. We're going to add certain regions that we want to monitor. Region monitoring is available through the use of CL monitor. So first, I'm just going to go ahead and create a monitor, which will be of type CL, which is core location monitor. Currently, we don't really have to need to initialize this. We will initialize it inside the start region monitoring. So let's go ahead and initialize it. monitor equals to await CL monitor with a particular name. So the name that you have to specify over here, make sure that the name doesn't really have any spaces within them. So you can call this thing anything you want. I'm just going to call it region monitor, but try to name it like if you are monitoring for certain like shopping stuff, then you can say shopping monitor and things like that. Currently, this monitor does not really have any regions that it is monitoring. So we will go ahead and say await, because it's an async function, monitor.add, and now you can see that we can add certain conditions that we want to monitor. The first condition that we want to monitor will be the Cupertino village. So I'm just going to say CL monitor dot circular geographic condition and Cupertino village. The identifier is the important part because the identifier has to be unique and it uniquely identifies the region, the condition that you're monitoring. So make sure that you pass in something unique. So I'm just going to pass in Cupertino village. And the final thing is assuming. Assuming simply means that when this monitoring actually starts, are we assuming that it is unknown, unsatisfied, or satisfied? Satisfied simply means that the person has entered the region. Unknown means we don't know. Unsatisfied means that we know that the person has not entered the region. So we're just going to call it unsatisfied. We can use the same exact approach to add Apple Campus also. Make sure that you give it some sort of a different identifier. So in this case, I'm just going to give it Apple Campus. Great. And the next thing is we want to start getting the events from these regions. So start listening to these events. So I'm going to create a task closure over here for try await event in await monitor dot events. So we're just going to go through all the different events. Monitor is already initialized, so we can just go ahead and unwrap it. And event will be different events that we are monitoring. So we can perform a switch on the case or the state of the event. The state of the event can be three things: satisfied, unsatisfied, or unknown. So satisfied simply means that the person has actually entered the region. So I'm just going to go ahead and say satisfied. Okay, like that. Now the other regions are unsatisfied or unknown. So unsatisfied and unknown, we don't really want to do anything over here. So I'm just going to say unknown or unsatisfied. Let's go ahead and build it. Now it's saying that switch covers known cases, but may have additional cases. So this means that we can go ahead and add unknown over here. So if there are unknown cases, we can revert to default. And for here, we're just going to go ahead and say unknown default. Okay, so we have now created start region monitoring, and we're going to monitor two different regions, Cupertino Village and Apple Campus. And whenever we entered a particular region or particular conditions, this code is going to get fired, and it's going to give us satisfied if we have entered a particular region, and it's going to give us unsatisfied whenever we go out of that region. If we are already in the region, then it's not, I don't think it's going to call satisfied at that point. All right, but we'll see. So now the thing is that we need to call this particular function. So where should we start monitoring this particular region? Let's go to the content view. In the content view, you can see that we're using ZStack and all that stuff. We can add over here a task modifier and fire some code, which in this case can be the location manager dot start region monitoring. Great. Let's go ahead and run our application. Okay, allow once. Now currently you can see that there are different regions that are drawn, we are already inside the apple. And since we are already inside the apple, you can say it's saying satisfied because the condition is satisfied. That's great. The other region is this Cupertino village. So let's try to go to the Cupertino village, this one. So how do we go change our location from Apple Park to Cupertino village? Well, you can do that by going to Features, Location, and then use a custom location. So if you use a custom location, you can see that you can enter different things over here, the latitude and the longitude. Right now, the latitude and longitude belongs to Apple Campus, but we can change that and we can use something completely different. So in our case, we can change that to Cupertino Village. So let's go ahead and change that to Cupertino Village by changing the latitude and changing the longitude. There we go. Okay, so now you can see that our location is changed. Now we are inside the Cupertino village. And as we step outside of Apple, we become unknown or unsatisfied. And then we also became satisfied because now we are again in a region which is being monitored, which is Cupertino village. What about if we go to Menlo Park? So if I go again to location, and Menlo Park is one that is not being monitored. So it should not say satisfied. It should just say unsatisfied. Unknown or unsatisfied. And I think if I zoom out, Menlo Park is a little bit far. You should be able to see the Menlo Parks area somewhere. There we go. That's in Palo Alto or near Palo Alto. And you can see that this particular region is actually not satisfied because we are not really tracking or monitoring this region. Okay. Now let's go ahead and let's pull up this again. Try to go to a region that is being tracked. So I'm going to jump into Cupertino Village again. There's no reason to go to Menlo Park right now. It's not really being tracked. Okay, so let's go to Cupertino Village. Okay, and again you can see satisfied. I can zoom in a little bit just to show you we are in Cupertino Village. And you can already see this markers that we added, the map circle, that is definitely helping us out because now we can see that we are inside the region or not. Now, one of the things which would be really good is once we enter a region which is being monitored, Cupertino Village or the Apple Campus, Apple Park, what about if we want to show the picture of or the artwork associated with that region? Some sort of a visual thing that you have entered into Apple Park or Cupertino Village. So in the next lecture, we'll be looking at how we can show a modal, a sheet, whenever you enter into the monitored regions. So in order to show the user some sort of a sheet, some sort of a modal with a particular image for the Apple Park or the Cupertino Village, what we need to do is to capture the identifier that uniquely identify the condition. So going back to the location manager, and if you look at the location manager, right over here we are capturing satisfied, not satisfied, and so on. In the satisfied, we can get the last event. Last event basically means that what condition was fired in the end. So let's go ahead and get that. We will get the last event, await, monitor. Again, monitor is already been initialized on line number 57. I mean, if you want, you can go ahead and safely unwrap it, but that is also fine. Record for the event dot identifier. So we're trying to get the record on, and from the record we're trying to get the last event, which is going to give us a little bit more idea of what exactly is going on. Now you can see the last event is of type clMonitor.event, and it does have the identifier. That's the same identifier that you need, the same identifier that you set, whether it is Cupertino Village or it is Apple Campus. So we can actually use that. But in order to use that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a location event. You can call it monitor event also if you want to, but I'm just going to call it location event, and I will make sure it is conforming to identifiable. And the reason I'm creating this is that so I can use it in my interface in SwiftUI. So let's go ahead and call it identifier, which will be a string. So once we have the last event, based on the last event, we can go ahead and create a location event. Let me first go up there and make sure that we are also creating the location event. So line number 51, let's go ahead and add location event. At present time, we don't really have the location event, so I'm just going to mark it optional. And once we get the last event, that will have the identifier. So I can use location event equals to location event, passing in the identifier, which will be the last event dot identifier. And this identifier is the same, Apple Campus or Cupertino Village. So now we set the location event whenever the condition is satisfied. That's great. If we go back to our content view, then we should be able to use a simple sheet to display a different view. So I'm just going to go ahead and say dot sheet on the item itself, which is the location manager dot location event, and this will give us a location event. And using the location event and using the identifier, we should be able to display the image from the artwork and the actual identifier. And that's it. So this means that whenever we enter a region that is being monitored, we are going to show a modal, a sheet, with a particular artwork and a text view, which is simply displaying the identifier. So let's go ahead and run the application again. I will say allow once. Okay. So right now we are in the Cupertino Village. So let's go ahead and jump into Apple Campus and see what happens. So the way that we're going to jump into over there will be to set some sort of a, custom location over here. So we need location for Apple Campus. I'm just going to drag and drop some locations over here. So it's going to change that latitude and change this longitude so that we are inside. And there we go. Once we are inside that region, it becomes satisfied, and then it shows us that we are inside the Apple Campus. So it shows up, it activates the modal or the sheet. Let's go ahead and do it again, but this time we're going to go to the Cupertino Village, which is a shop area, a shopping center nearby. Again, I have to update these latitude and longitudes. There we go. And there we go, Cupertino Village. So based on our artwork and based on the particular region and identifier, that's why the identifiers are so important, we are able to show a particular modal, a sheet, and then display information according to what we're looking for. All right. Now, obviously, I'm just showing you this sheet or a modal just for display purposes, but you can do a lot of different things. Maybe you can send a notification that, hey, you're in Cupertino Village. Maybe you need to pick up something from here. Or whenever you enter the region for Apple Campus, you send a notification saying, oh yeah, I need to pick up my laptop from there. So things like that, you can implement it on your own. All right. So hopefully this whole section has given you more ideas to play around with how you can monitor certain regions using the CL Monitor classes. Thank you so much.